Councillor Stewart and Councillor Watson for lateness. Oh, so Member Wilcox is standing in for David Taipere. Any other?
Second.
No, I'll move that. Seconded. Councillor Filipaina. I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Any declarations of interest? No. Welcome, Councillor Walker. I'll move the confirmation of the minutes for 18th. Thank you, Councillor Walker. Straight into it, in the door and into it. I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Petitions, there are none. Public input, there was none and none requested. But while I'm here, seeing this is the last meeting of this committee, I'm actually going to acknowledge our public. Robin Hill, Shirley Taylor, Veronica Nopes, who have been our public all the way through for the last kind of 6 years and have been our stalwart public. And you don't realise how much you kind of get used to, in a good way, people being there. And I just want to acknowledge these wonderful women, mostly 2, often 3 of you who are here through everything. So it's been lovely to have you here. Really appreciate it.
We're the public.
Yay for the public. It's a fantastic thing. And local board input, there is none, but I welcome Lisa White, who's here. Welcome, Lisa. And you may, I think when we get to the structure plan discussion, you're welcome to discuss then. I think that makes more sense. Notice of extraordinary business, notices of motion, there are none. So we move on to reports pending. Any discussion on that? I'm happy to move the update. Councillor Darby, second. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Now, item number 10 is our work programme and review of progress. I want to just take this moment to acknowledge you as a committee. When you have a look back at some of the work that's been done over the last little while, there's been a huge amount achieved, and that's thanks to you as a hard-working committee. Basically, this committee has done pretty much most of the heavy lifting, some of the very, very hard work that's been done to drive that work program forward, and of course no less heavy lifting than the unitary plan. So I want to acknowledge Councillor Filipaina, who dealt with the bulk of the unitary plan work in this last term. Just before I go through some of our highlights, I want to warmly acknowledge my Deputy Chair, Councillor Darby. Chris, you've been fantastic to work with, and I think we've been the perfect combination. Chris is all detail, I'm all big picture. If we'd only been detail, we would have got nowhere. If we'd been only big picture, we would have got nowhere. So, Chris, thank you. Thank you for your attention to the hard questions that often don't get asked. It's hugely appreciated, and you've been a powerhouse of support. I want to just touch on, as I said, the unitary plan. Huge, lots of words spoken, enormous. I think you were the most extraordinary bunch of people to do this, and I salute all of you. We've approved 154 special housing areas with a capacity for 62,500 dwellings. That's, the hard yards, and it's huge. Taken a lot of flack in the media, a lot of questions still to be addressed, but it was the right thing to do. We've landed the future land supply strategy, the transport for urban growth plan, the Aotea and downtown frameworks, the housing plan, which is, still, I think, the thing that we need to really grasp in the next term. We've dealt with the Selwyn Foundation partnership, well interrogated, well asked, well thought through, and Council's housing portfolio, housing for older adult portfolio, is in safe hands. And Councillor Casey, thank you for being an absolute terrier through that process to make sure that we get the best result. Really appreciated. Our port study, difficult time. I think we're getting to a better place with that. We've dealt with heaps of submissions, and the one today, yet another Prodcom submission. We've dealt with them well. We've thought them through well, and hopefully government will take our views on board. And finally, things in progress. The Tamaki project, thank you Councillor Crum for your role in that. Panuku, we've started to really make progress and get traction with the work that Panuku is doing, and we're starting to understand exactly the potential of this workhorse of council to make transformative change. So again, to you as a committee, I think you've been extraordinary. I know I've had to be a grumpy chair from time to time. For that I apologise. I don't always get it right, and sometimes I've had to be a bit tougher than perhaps was warranted, and I know that might have annoyed you all, but that's just how life goes. So I thank you for your forbearance and for your general good humour and goodwill to get on with the job. So with those words, the Auckland Development Work Programme, I'd like to move that, and just wonder, Catherine, did you want to say? So Catherine's here to answer any questions if needed. Councillor Darby.
Oh, just on that note, before we move to the business proper there, and I acknowledge you, Councillor Hulse and Deputy Mayor, this is a committee that often finds itself absolutely under the pump. And, around this table, we're not here to agree with each other. We're here to interrogate items and get stuck in, and I think we've all done that on this committee. Almost like no other committee. I think that we've had some tough items before us, and look back and the rear view mirror, it's the Port Future study. That was a tough one for us, and we found ourselves on different sides, and right now today we're together on the same side, I think. And with the SHAs, different sides, today same side. Unitary plan, different sides, same side. It's all about the ultimate outcome and how it fits into today's Auckland, planning for futures Auckland, the future Auckland. But Deputy Mayor, ultimately though, it is the person at the top that wears it, and the Mayor knows this well. The criticism comes in waves when you're embarking on things. The accolades are very light when you achieve the outcomes. But that is, we all know that is how the job is, and we don't sit here waiting for the accolades, but we've got to do the job well. And I take my hat off to you. You have found yourself, we have found ourselves, but particularly you, under the pump on some extremely grunty issues that we had to face up to in Auckland. And the biggest, of course, and I don't think there will be a chair that will, for the next 20 years, that's going to have to deal with the unitary plan as you dealt with it. That was not just a 3-year task, that was it's actually a 5-year work program all up. It started about a year after the first new Auckland Council came in. So in probably late 11, that's when you started with the unitary plan. Big issues, and you've mentioned most of them. Those quarter plans I think are amazing. Port Future Study I mentioned, the SHA's Housing Accord, and in behind that, it's not just the SHAs or the Housing Accord. In behind, unseen to most of us, is someone's cell phone number showing up, and it's that minister, and it's this minister, and it's dealing with questions straight out of Cabinet, and responding, being nimble on your toes, knowing your business, and keeping government with us and keeping us with government to deliver the outcome that Auckland expects of us. Tamaki regeneration, huge. Hobsonville, phenomenal. You go out there now and you look at how people are living. What a showcase for the future of Auckland. It's just remarkable. Housing for the elderly, I think, is going to be our new Hobsonville. It's going to be stunning. We've got a lot of work to do there. And again, that's all out of this committee's work led by you, Deputy Mayor. One of the big ones that I think is going to deliver huge yards in the future is the marriage of 2 of our CCOs, which came out of this committee. It was recommendations out of this committee, and that's that magic of Waterfront Auckland being merged up with the real estate expertise of ACPL into Development Auckland, and going out from the waterfront and giving that magic a spread into Manukau, Onehunga, Takapuna, Northcote, Henderson, etc. We're on the way, early days. We haven't seen the fruits of that yet. It's all planning, but it will have product and great outcomes at the end. Madam Chair, you've headed up all of that. I'm just really chuffed to be given the role by the Mayor almost 3 years ago. I've loved it. It's been tough at times, but whoever comes to this job in the future will be facing similar things. There's tough work to be done around here, and you have certainly, in my eyes, and I think all of us, have delivered the outputs, the outcomes that Aucklanders, all 1.5 million of us, expect of this community, and I'm sure they're accolading you too. Thank you.
Thank you. That's very exceedingly generous, Councillor Darby. Often it feels like, and I know Councillor Webster and I talk about this, a good day feels like a day when there's only 2 knives in your bag and not 10. So, you know, every now and again it's very nice to just put those down and acknowledge when things are going well. Hugely appreciated. So I've moved it. You've seconded the progress report. Any questions? If not, I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. And I know I'll make some comments at the end, but of course the staff role in this is absolutely key, and we might talk about that at the end of the meeting. Summary of information memos and briefings, that is for interest. I'll move the receipt of that summary. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Penrose, thank you. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. So we move on to the Transport for Future Urban Growth update. Welcome, thanks David and team. Hopefully everyone's got the presentation in front of them.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, councillors. Today we're giving an update on the Transport for Future Urban Growth. I have with me today members from the Transport for Future Growth Alliance, well known to you most likely, Matt Redmore from Auckland Transport and Solar from New Zealand Transport Agency. Just to put this into context, the Transport for Future Urban Growth Alliance project was initiated after the adoption of the Future Urban Land Supply Strategy, which was adopted by this committee November last year. In part of that strategy, we set out a sequencing process for 11,000 hectares of land in areas designated future urban within the proposed Auckland Unitary Plan. Subsequently, and with our recommendations of the independent hearing panel and the adoption of those by council, that has grown to close to 12,000 hectares. So the Alliance has undertaken a comprehensive business case approach to examine a future transport network to allow the timely urbanisation of these areas that are designated future urban. It's been a comprehensive process and an ongoing process. Today, this update will provide, I suppose, the finalisation of the second phase of this process, which we are putting together the strategic transport network in terms of the business cases, what they call the program business case phase. In this, it will allow to have a stab at what the strategic network should be, and from that it will allow better planning certainty, and it's a step of the process of understanding the financial implications of building this transport network, which will be coming to Council and the NZ, New Zealand Transport Agency, in future funding applications, and we'll see those in future long-term plans. I suppose what we will be updating today will be the results of the second phase of consultation that has been taken place, and also we'll be outlining a preferred strategic transport set of maps, and we will be recommending the endorsement of these maps, and also we're asking for your agreement to do further detailed work on the components of these maps and the projects that make them up. So Matt will now give an overview and presentation on where we've got since April last year, and then we'll take questions.
Lovely, thank you.
Thanks, David. Good morning, councillors. As David said, we'll run through some of the background information, but many of you would have seen this previously, and then we'll identify the results of the feedback, and then identify the preferred networks that are going forward to the Auckland Transport and New Zealand Transport Agency boards this month and next month. So just to confirm the background, So the study looked at the future urban land supply strategy areas, and we really built on those and looked at the decisions that came forward from the unitary plan, how they actually added on to those. So then we went forward. So really the partnership of the Transport Future Urban Growth Team came together in late 2015 after the adoption of the Future Urban Land Supply Strategy to identify a strategic transport network that would connect these future urban areas to the current urban zones over the next 30 years. We presented the results of the first round of consultation to you in 2016, and since then we've completed the second round of consultation, and we've identified a preferred network that overall delivers a multimodal response to growth and is estimated to cost 7.6 billion over the next 30 years. And the work that we've done for this project has really been an input into ATAP. That cost has been incorporated within the body of work that the council has seen for ATAP and will be identified later on today. And it really supports those early investment priorities about route protecting the network and then prioritising those early builds to see the delivery of housing and jobs in these areas.